Hey everyone, and welcome back to the deep dive. We all know, right, that friends are like super important for our happiness, and just feeling good.
Yeah, totally.
But what if I told you that those same friendships could be like secretly boosting your brain power?
Okay, I'm intrigued. Like more than just making us feel good.
Way more. Today, we're diving into the research that shows how friendships can actually sharpen your thinking skills and even improve those grades.
That's right. We're not just talking about vibes here, folks. We're looking at hard data, real studies exploring how those connections with your buddies can make a difference in your academic life.
And our listeners are all about getting to the good stuff fast. So to unpack this, we've got a super study for you.
A meta-analysis.
Exactly. It's like a study of studies.
Right, it combines all the findings from a bunch of individual research projects to see what the bigger picture really looks like.
This one is called Do Friendships Afford Academic Benefits? Catchy title, right?
Straight to the point.
It was published in the Educational Psychology Review back in 2018. And it's basically your shortcut to getting the definitive answer on this question.
And it's thorough. They didn't mess around. This meta-analysis crunched the numbers from 22 different studies,
Wow.
81 different ways they measured friendship, and it involved 28 independent groups of students. That's pretty massive.
Yeah, that's a lot of data. So we can be pretty confident in the results here. Now, when these researchers talk about friendship, they're looking at two main things. First, there's the whole study buddy thing, actually working on school stuff with your friends.
Right.
And second, just having friends in general, whether it's having that one, like really close friend.
You're ride or die.
Yeah, exactly. Or just a good number of solid friends you can count on.
Okay, so two sides of the friendship coin.
And what they found is really interesting for our listeners who are, always trying to optimize their lives. The findings showed a clear positive link between both these types of friendship and, well, how well students did academically.
So it's not just about feeling good and having people to hang out with. It seems like friendship actually impacts your ability to learn and to, use your brain.
Right. It's not just social, it's like cognitive.
Exactly.
Okay. So let's get into the specifics. Big question. Does having friends actually translate to better grades?
Here's the deal. Both working with friends on schoolwork and just having those friendships in your life, in general, they both have a small to moderate positive effect on a couple of things. Your cognitive skills.
Things like problem solving. Right?
Yeah. Logical reasoning, all that good stuff.
The brony stuff.
And then also on your actual academic performance, grades, test scores, the things that make your parents happy.
Or stressed. Okay, so small to moderate. Can we put some numbers on that for our data-loving listeners?
Sure thing. They calculated something called an overall weighted average effect size.
Now, that sounds complicated.
It's actually simpler than it sounds. Think of it like one number that shows you how strong the relationship is across all those different studies.
Ah,
And they used a couple different ways to calculate this, but both approaches showed a positive effect. One gave an effect size of 0.35, and the other was 0.29. Both of these are statistically significant, meaning it's not just random chance. There's something real going on here.
so it's not like a huge, massive effect, but it is a real, consistent advantage.
Like a little extra boost.
a tailwind. Okay, so now I'm really curious. Why does having friends lead to these benefits? What's the logic here?
Well, the researchers talked about a couple of ideas. The first one is this cognitive development angle. It goes back to the work of like Piaget and Vygotsky.
Ah, the big names in developmental psych.
Right. These guys were all about how social interaction is crucial for learning and just like growing as a person. And the idea is that when you're working on schoolwork with your friends, you naturally have to talk things out, consider their perspectives, and maybe even like disagree with them sometimes.
Right, you can't just be in your own little bubble.
Exactly. And those interactions can really push you to think harder and come up with better solutions.
It's true. Like, sometimes you don't really understand something until you try to explain it to someone else. Or until you, like, poke holes in your argument.
Totally. And then there's also the practical side of things. Friends who are, good at certain subjects can help out their friends who are struggling, like built-in tutors.
Yeah, that's way better than just staring at a textbook by yourself.
Way more fun, too.
Okay, so that covers the thinking skills part. But you mentioned emotional and motivational benefits, too. How do friends help us academically in that way?
Well, think about it. Friendships create this positive, supportive environment for learning. You're more likely to try new things, to push yourself when you've got your friends cheering you on.
It's like peer pressure, but for good grades.
Exactly. And, friends can also be great role models. If your friends are all about studying and doing well in school, you're more likely to pick up those same habits and attitudes. That's like social learning theory in action.
So it's not just about what happens when you're actually working together. It's about the whole vibe they bring to school and learning in general.
Yeah, totally. And studies have shown that when friends work together, they tend to be more positive, they interact more, they help each other out more. It's just a better learning experience.
It sounds a lot more fun than studying solo, that's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Now, it's important to remember that not every single study found these positive effects.
Right, because, let's be real, friends can also be distracting.
Oh, yeah. Big time. Procrastination central sometimes.
And not all friendships are, like, focused on academic goals.
True. So it's really about the quality of the friendship, whether you're actually supporting each other's learning or, just goofing off.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about the overall reasons why friends might help you academically. But let's get specific. What kinds of academic benefits did this meta-analysis actually look at?
So they focused on two main areas, cognitive skills, like we talked about before, and then actual academic performance.
Okay, makes sense.
And in terms of cognitive skills, they were really interested in how friendships can boost things like creative problem solving.
Like coming up with innovative solutions.
Yeah, exactly. They looked at a bunch of different skills, scientific reasoning, language skills, even spatial memory. They even mentioned this study from 1997 where they found that elementary school students, when they were working with their friends, they came up with more creative solutions to problems compared to kids who weren't friends.
That's really cool. So it's not just about getting the right answer. It's about the whole process of thinking and collaborating.
Yeah, like how you get there. Friends just tend to work better together when it comes to those kinds of tasks.
And what about, the more traditional ways of measuring academic success, like grades and test scores? What did the research say about that?
Well, here's what they think is happening. Those improved cognitive skills we talked about, they actually become a bridge between friendship and better academic performance.
Ah, okay.
So, by hanging out with friends and doing school stuff together, you're sharpening your problem solving and reasoning skills, and that leads to better grades and test scores.
It's a great chain reaction.
Exactly. But it's not just that indirect effect. Having friends also gives you like more direct benefits, learning opportunities, motivation, and help with schoolwork. Think about it. Your friend can explain something to you in a way that suddenly makes sense. They can give you encouragement when you're totally freaking out about a test.
Right, like your own personal cheer squad.
Yeah, they're like a built-in support system.
Yeah,
And then there's the whole thing about friends sharing similar values and goals. If your friends care about school, you're more likely to care too.
makes sense.
And it's funny, but even how your friends see you academically can actually predict how well you'll do in the future.
Really? That's wild.
It's like if your friends think you're a good student, you kind of start to believe it yourself, you know?
I get that.
And of course, friends are always there to help you out with homework and studying,
It's like having a study group on demand.
pretty much. So, yeah, it seems like friendships are woven into every aspect of our academic lives. Now, this meta-analysis also looked at whether certain things might affect how strong this friendship academic success link is.
Okay, so, like, are there certain people for whom this effect is stronger?
Well, that's what they wanted to find out. They looked at things like the student's gender, their age, where they're from, and then also things about the studies themselves, like how they measured friendship, how they measured academic outcomes, stuff like that.
Okay, to see if those factors made a difference.
Right. And the surprising thing is, for the most part, these factors didn't really change the basic relationship.
So it doesn't matter if you're a boy or a girl or what grade you're in.
That's what the data seems to suggest. They found that the strength of the connection was pretty much the same for different age groups, from little kids to, high schoolers.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, suggesting that those academic benefits of friendship, they're there throughout your school years.
And what about where you live? Does your culture or country make a difference?
They compared studies from the US to studies from other countries, and there weren't any big differences there either. So it seems like this positive link between friendship and school success, it's pretty universal.
Okay, that's fascinating. So we've talked about age, we've talked about culture. What about gender? Any notable differences between boys and girls?
Well, the meta-analysis didn't find any statistically significant differences.
So basically, no.
Yeah, basically. But they did mention that there weren't that many studies that specifically looked at gender, so more research could definitely be done there, to be sure.
Okay, makes sense. So It sounds like no matter who you are, friendships are probably a good thing for your academic life.
Hmm.
What about the specific academic outcome? Did friendship have a bigger impact on cognitive skills or on, like, getting good grades?
This is interesting. They found that the positive link was pretty consistent, whether they were looking at cognitive skills or actual academic performance.
So it helps with both.
It seems that way, yeah. Pretty cool, right?
Totally. Now, you mentioned that the studies measured friendship in different ways. Did that affect the results at all?
It actually did, and this is an important point. The studies that just counted how many friends a student had, those tended to show a slightly weaker effect than the studies that really zoomed in on close friendships.
So it's not just about having a ton of friends.
Not necessarily. It seems like the quality of the friendships, that close connection, that's what really matters.
So having a few close friends who you can really rely on, that's probably more beneficial than just being like the most popular kid in school.
Right. Quality over quantity when it comes to friendship and school success.
Okay, so friendships seem to be a good thing for our academic lives. But, correlation doesn't equal causation, right? Just because two things happen together doesn't mean one causes the other. Did the study address that?
Oh, absolutely. That's super important to keep in mind. This meta-analysis definitely shows us there's a connection, but it doesn't prove that friendship directly causes better grades.
Right, right.
But they did point out that some of the studies they looked at, like the ones that actually observed friends working together or followed students over time, those studies do hint at a possible causal link.
So maybe it's not just that smart kids have more friends. Maybe having those friends actually helps them get smarter.
Exactly. And that leads to a really important question for future research. What are the specific ways in which friendships have this effect? We've talked about some possibilities like working together, emotional support, motivation, but we need more research to really figure out which of these things are most important.
Yeah, it'd be great to know exactly how this works. What else did they recommend for future research?
Well, they said it would be really interesting to look more closely at the quality of friendships. Are friendships that are supportive and positive more beneficial than ones that are full of drama and conflict?
Makes sense. You probably don't get much studying done if you're always fighting with your friend.
Exactly. And then what about the characteristics of the friends themselves? Do you get more benefit if your friends are also academically motivated?
That's a good question.
They also mentioned that most of the studies focused on those close one-on-one friendships. But what about larger friend groups? How does being part of a bigger group of friends affect your schoolwork? And then of course there's the whole online world.
Right, because friendships these days aren't just face-to-face anymore.
Exactly. And that's a whole other area that needs more research.
So basically, lots more to learn about this.
Tons. And they also mentioned that it would be great to have more studies that actually take place in real classrooms and more studies that follow students over a longer period of time to really understand the long-term impact of friendship on learning.
Makes sense. So what's the bottom line for our listeners? What should they take away from all this?
The main takeaway is this. Friendships, both having friends and actually working with your friends, are connected to good things. Better academic outcomes, better cognitive skills. This meta-analysis shows us that.
And hopefully, our deep dive has given everyone a clear, easy to understand summary of this research, so you don't have to go read all those studies yourself.
Right. We like to do the hard work for you.
But it's also important to remember that while this research shows us a general trend, every friendship is different.
Yeah, and every learning environment is different too.
So what works for one person might not work for another. But still, it's pretty cool to think about how these things are all connected.
Totally.
So here's a final thought for you to consider. Think about your own experiences in school. How have your friendships helped you learn? Or maybe even made it harder to learn? And how can we use this information to create better learning environments? Like, could we be doing things in schools to encourage those positive peer interactions to help students get even more out of their friendships?
Yeah, that's a great question. Maybe by understanding how these things work, we can help students learn better.
Exactly. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone.